About a month back, we covered a major update surrounding D12's upcoming album after the official track list dropped, and you won't believe the reactions it instantly sparked across the hip-hop community. Then came the twist that caught plenty of people off guard. Eminem appears on every single track, which honestly makes perfect sense since he's always been an official member of D12.
Hey, Emil, we're changing the script.
Well, that pretty much put an end to the hopes of everyone who was convinced otherwise, and you could almost hear the doubters getting proven wrong. Since D12's newest album finally arrived, we've also seen a wave of fan reactions, fresh discussions, and even more details continuing to surface. But that's not where this story ends, because today there's another piece of the puzzle that makes this situation even more interesting. It looks like a certain crowd of self-proclaimed hip-hop experts, longtime rap fans, and even voices within hip-hop media completely missed the mark on one of the biggest narratives surrounding Eminem, and now that storyline appears to be finished once and for all. Believe it or not, the rise of the digital music era is playing a huge role in changing the conversation. And honestly, streaming hasn't been the villain some people make it out to be. Even Paul Rosenberg pointed that out quite a while ago.
As if you recall, around 2015, right when streaming was starting, people weren't buying albums. Everybody was getting stuff for free. And there was no streaming, so there was no money pouring into the business at all. The same people complaining about that weren't really selling CDs either. Yeah. So of course the artists who are the biggest are going to make the most money because they are listened to the most. Is it entirely equitable? Could it be better? Probably, but it's not terrible.
Now here's where things get even more interesting, because a brand new report is making it clear that plenty of so-called industry insiders completely misread the situation when it came to Eminem. D12 Forever officially dropped just a few hours ago, and despite featuring the long-awaited My Salsa, Eminem himself never actually appeared on the album. Personally, I'd say the project was solid enough, although fan reactions have been all over the place since its release. Some listeners are even convinced that certain vocals were enhanced with AI, while others couldn't stop praising My Salsa as one of the standout moments. One fan summed it up by saying the album was mostly forgettable and about as average as expected, although tracks like Tear It Down, the comedy skits, and Method Man's verse were definite bright spots. Others felt the song featuring Proof and Eli sounded unusual, leaving many listeners divided after hearing it. Another interesting theory making the rounds is that AI may have been used on Proof's vocals, while at the same time, My Salsa ended up becoming the clear favorite for a lot of fans. Some also pointed out that Spotify doesn't list the producer, but nearly everyone agreed the instrumental was one of the strongest parts of the record. A few listeners even noticed that the beat, especially toward the ending, gave off a vibe similar to Brand New Dance or Christopher Reeve, making the comparisons impossible to ignore. At the same time, fans said Swiftie and Vaughn genuinely sounded like they enjoyed putting this project together, and honestly, that energy comes through in places. Considering both artists are now likely in their 50s, many people hope they're financially comfortable enough to create music because they love it, rather than because they have to. One listener admitted they rarely check out new rap releases unless Eminem drops something or friends recommend it, which made this album feel even less memorable to them. So now the question shifts to you. Which side of the conversation are you on after hearing all these reactions? As for me, the very first thing I posted on social media was about My Salsa, because it ended up being much better than I expected, even without Eminem appearing on the track, despite years of fan speculation and memes. After the release, D12 also shared a heartfelt message explaining that they're doing everything possible to protect the group's legacy and honor everyone who helped build it. They gave special thanks to Marshall for believing they could complete the project on their own, encouraging them throughout the process, carrying the CD with him, and even trying to make the deadline despite his packed schedule. The group also thanked Paul Rosenberg for his continued motivation and support, before expressing sincere gratitude to the fans who stayed loyal through every high and low over the years. To celebrate the album's launch, D12 also announced a series of shows in the United Kingdom, with tickets made available through Ticketmaster. Even after all that, some fans still aren't ready to let the Eminem theories go, with one popular idea claiming this first release was only a setup and that a second volume will eventually reunite all 6 members. Others believe Marshall followed every bit of the online reaction and point to D12's own statement confirming that he genuinely tried to be involved, even if the final result left many fans slightly disappointed. So now it's your turn. What do you honestly think about the album? And if you had to rate D12 Forever from 1 to 10, where would it land? One final surprise for me was Better Days, because it felt completely different from the classic D12 style, and that unexpected direction definitely caught my attention. Looking at everything that's unfolded from the early 2000s all the way to 2026, I'd say the current situation honestly isn't that surprising anymore. Now here's where the conversation gets really interesting, because for years, certain hip-hop commentators and media figures kept insisting that Eminem's catalog hadn't stood the test of time. But the streaming era has quietly dismantled that argument, and you won't believe how clear the numbers have made it. A recent report from Apple Music, released in collaboration with Chart Data, highlighted the platform's 20 most streamed artists of all time, and it added another major piece to the discussion. Despite Apple Music often being viewed as a platform dominated by newer streaming-era stars, Eminem still secured the number 20 spot, which speaks volumes. That achievement also means he's the only artist whose career began before the 2000s to rank among Spotify's top 10 and Apple Music's top 20 most streamed artists of all time, even though he never came up during the streaming era. And that's not even the full picture, because there's even more data from other platforms worth talking about. On YouTube Music, which reaches an even larger global audience than Apple Music, Eminem remains the #1 rapper, while he also ranks inside the top 5 rappers on services like Deezer, especially across the MENA region. No matter which platform you look at, he's remained one of the few rappers from his generation to consistently hold that level of popularity, and that's hard to ignore. There's nothing wrong with casual listeners getting a few facts mixed up, because they aren't expected to study industry trends every day. What makes this story fascinating is that many self-proclaimed experts and respected media voices confidently push the idea that listeners rarely revisited Eminem's music because it was supposedly trapped in its own era. Yet today's streaming data paints a completely different picture. If this were almost any other field where accuracy truly mattered, those kinds of claims would be facing serious scrutiny instead of quietly disappearing. Fortunately for those industry voices, the music business rarely holds people accountable for narratives that don't age well. So I'm curious to hear your opinion, because it really makes you wonder how that narrative became so widely accepted in the first place, and who originally helped spread it. On a separate note, reports circulating online claimed that producer Tay Keith, known for work with Travis Scott, Eminem, Drake, and many other major artists, had passed away at the age of 29, leading to an outpouring of condolences from fans and fellow artists. If those reports are accurate, it's an incredibly heartbreaking loss, and our thoughts are with everyone affected.